All right, so today was a train wreck. Finishing the week, not in a good way. I'm so frustrated. I feel like my mistake today is so classic. It's like a textbook mistake. And I've been trading for so long. Sometimes I ask myself, how is it even possible that you could still make this kind of mistake? It feels like a beginner mistake. And yet, I think as I walk you through what I did today, you're going to understand just how humbling trading can be and how it humanizes you. And just, it's like no one is immune from these mental games that the market plays with us. So let's take a step back. Let's set some context to kind of everything that happened today, because it really began yesterday. So this week, for the most part, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, pretty good. Decent profitability for me was averaging about $55,000 per day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, really solid. Thursday, yesterday, I came in and things were a little different. So what was different about yesterday was that I knew that I had to leave early. So anytime that I have to end my trading day early, it really throws me off. And I never like having my day cut early. It's not good, but look, sometimes these things happen. So I started yesterday trading, I sat down at like 7 a.m., quarter of 7, whatever. I looked at the scans, and yesterday morning, we didn't have a lot on the scans that looked really good. The stock that I made the most money on was LIDR. It's a tech company that had NVIDIA news out yesterday, collaborating or integrating with NVIDIA's autonomous driving system. So, there was this headline out on it. And if I pull up the chart here, you'll see that it made a really big move. And so I made money on it. I finished yesterday up about $20,000. And on the one hand, I felt like I needed to be super aggressive to compensate for the fact that I only had about an hour and a half to trade before I needed to leave. But on the other hand, I felt this pressure that if I had a loss, I wouldn't have a lot of time to recoup the loss before I had to leave. And I've had times where it's like I have to leave at exactly, 8:30, and it's 8:15 and I'm still red $3,000 or $4,000. And I'm like, I know I can make this back if I could just have, another hour of time to trade, but time's running out. So the other thing that kind of compounded yesterday was that the reason I had to leave at 8:30 was because I had to drive down to New York for a doctor's appointment. So, look, I put everything on the table with you guys. My red days, my green days. So I'm going to put this on the table too, because this is real life. And this is the stuff that, obviously carries over into trading. So I was feeling stressed yesterday because I knew that I had this procedure yesterday morning. So I had to have an endoscopy. They put a camera down your throat because I've been having a lot of heartburn. And I've been having a hard time eating because it's been so bad. It's not, it's just something I've been dealing with. I've been dealing with it for years, to be honest. But my list of foods I can eat has been getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So finally, I'm like, all right, I'm not going to be, Mr. Tough Guy, which, I know you guys all look at me like, oh, this guy's so tough. I'm going to go ahead and go to the doctor. So anyways, I have this endoscopy scheduled, and I'm not excited about it. No one's going to be excited about it. They got to put you to sleep, do the whole thing. Don't want to do it. And even though I scheduled the latest appointment I could, it still is cutting into my trading day. And there's nothing I can do about that. We're in a hot market. So for me, missing a day of trading, it feels like there's a very significant opportunity cost. $50,000 of potential profit. And I'm going to miss that. Maybe I'll just wait until the market's slower to schedule this appointment. But, it is what it is. Had it scheduled. So I leave here at 8:30. And as I was leaving yesterday morning, I had just finished trading LIDR, but it was a really nice looking setup. And so I'm feeling frustrated leaving. And I don't know why, I do this, but I was like, I'm just going to check on my phone. So I get to the doctor's office and I'm just like looking on my phone. And how do you think that makes me feel? I'm looking on my phone and seeing how much this thing squeezed up. And I'm feeling irate. I'm so annoyed. I'm just like, I'm thinking about all the money that I could have, should have, would have made, and why I should have prioritized, my job, which is being here every day trading, and just figured out another time to do this doctor thing. So, I'm feeling annoyed and whatever. This is LIDR. It keeps going higher and I'm seeing people in the chat room like, oh my God, I can't believe Ross is missing this. Da, 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 da. So, you could argue, don't look after you leave. And I often say that to you guys. I say, if you have to leave for the day, don't keep looking at what's happening because you're only going to get yourself frustrated. Maybe I was doing it because I was just feeling nervous about the doctor's appointment and I was like, this is just going to keep my mind off of it. And it did, but it got me pretty frustrated. In fact, my rage knows no bounds. I mean, I was very upset. So now we've got this huge move yesterday in LIDR. I made decent money, but it felt like not as much as I could have. So now I'm in the doctor's room and, they're like, the doctor comes in, the anesthesiologist comes in. He's like, all right, I'm going to give you your medicine. And I'm like, good, because I don't want to be awake, because I'm like, I don't want to think about this stock that I missed. So he's like trying to cheer me up. So he's like, I'm going to give you your medicine and you're going to fall asleep. And I was like, okay. So I'm thinking that, I'm going to count down like 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, and whatever. And he throws me a little curveball. I think he's trying to cheer me up. He's like, I'll tell you what. He's like, see if you can name for me the top 10 most beautiful women in the world. And I'm like, all right. So I'm thinking in my head, and you know who I'm thinking of? Number one spot, Kendall Jenner. That's just like top of my head. I'm like, Kendall Jenner. Do you want to know what I said? What I said was Caitlyn Jenner. I said out of my mouth, Caitlyn Jenner. And that was the last thing I said before I fell asleep. So now I live with this embarrassment. And of course, I'm thinking to myself that these guys, the doctor and the anesthesiologist must have just been like, did this guy really just say Caitlyn Jenner? Are we for real right now? Did this really just happen? And now I'm asleep, so I don't have a chance to correct myself. So, the procedure goes as planned. I don't know how they even did it with a straight face, but they did it. Then I'm in the recovery room, and you want to know the first thing I said when I woke up? I said, Kendall Jenner. Kendall Jenner. I meant to say Kendall Jenner. I'm looking around. Doctor's gone. Anesthesiologist, gone. You know who is there? My wife. So you better believe it was a long car ride home from New York because she was wondering why I was talking so much and thinking so much about Kendall Jenner. So now I've got kind of layers of frustration. Okay. So it was a bad day yesterday. I missed LIDR. I publicly said Caitlyn Jenner is the most beautiful woman in the world. And then I pull up my scans and lo and behold, I missed another big move. LHAI squeezed up yesterday over 300%. 300%. This stock goes from like $4 or $5 a share to $22 without me. And I was so frustrated. So, so I didn't end up doing a recap yesterday. I did post my P&L. I didn't do a recap. But when I sat down this morning, the first stock on the scans, LHAI, it was the leading gapper. And so I look at it and I'm thinking, okay, I think I can work with this. It made a huge move yesterday, pulled back. Now it's curling back up. So what am I looking at? A retest of yesterday's high. It already popped up. It pulled back. So I get in right here. And you know what I did? I made that classic mistake, carrying FOMO, frustration, and dare I say a little bit of embarrassment from yesterday. I want to show people that I actually know what the heck I'm doing here. I'm not a total idiot. And I jump in this right here, full size, and instantly catch this rejection, right? It pops up, rejects down, and I lose $17,000 on the first trade. So now my blood is boiling. I'm sitting here and I'm like, how am I the guy who's red on this stock? I mean, it's still up significantly from yesterday. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'll get another attempt at it. And so what I end up doing is I start over trading it. I start buying dips, tiny little breakouts. And you know what? I didn't lose more over trading it. I actually made back about $3,000 over trading it, but I'm still red 14 grand on it. So I went from down 17,000 on the day to down 14 grand. And so I'm sitting here, those were my first trades. And then the second stock I traded, SOWG. SOWG hits the scanner, pops up. I take a micro pullback right under 2. I jump in, I jump out. I make $1,188.33. I make Caitlyn proud. All right. So I got a nice little winner on that. I'm still down 13,000 on the day. And then we have PHIO. So PHIO comes up on the scans and I'm like, oh man, if Caitlyn could see me now. So this thing starts to curl up. It pops up, it pulls back, it comes back up, it dips back down. And I take this break out here and then I add for the break of 350. And this thing squeezes all the way up to 410. I locked up $37,000 in profit on it. And just like that, I went from red on the day to green. I was basically at my daily goal, right? So now I'm feeling good. I'm like, this is something that, all right, but I'm still watching LHAI. I'm having a hard time letting this one go. I'm still watching it. I'm still looking at it. And then all of a sudden ATNF hits my scans and I see this one popping up and I'm kind of like blown away because this stock ends up squeezing straight up. I mean, we look at this chart here and this thing went from about $2.50 to $6. So the thing is, I was feeling a little nervous because, obviously the day was not going very well. So I was watching it on these dips here. I didn't buy it. I finally got in right here. I got out right here with profit. And then I added back down here. I was trying to do a double bottom. So I end up adding a little lower. And then I double right here. I'm like, all right, here we go. We're going for that break through the high. I lost $13,000 on this right here. So now I go from up, it was a little under 20,000 on the day, back down to up only a couple thousand. And then we have MCVT. MCVT pops up. I lose $4,000 on this one. And, I just felt like at this point in the day, I just felt like I was out of step. I was just not like dialed in. I just kept, I don't know, like I just was not this. I got in and traded right here, but I went heavy for the break of 4 and then stopped out coming back down. Like I don't know why. It's like all day long, I was overcompensating for missing yesterday, right? That FOMO from yesterday was just with me all day long today. And so I was trading aggressively in the wrong spots. And, it was just sloppy and it was frustrating because it's like I saw myself doing it, but I wasn't able to kind of pull back off the throttle. I was just really pushing hard. And, we had this pop here, sold off, comes back up. I made $6,700 on this. I didn't trade it nearly as well as I could have because I was just being sort of, it was kind of funny. I was on the one hand being conservative and like kind of gun shy, and the other hand pulling the trigger, but with like way too much size only once we had confirmation. But sometimes you pay the price for confirmation because you get confirmation only once things are actually moving and then you're getting in too high. So if you're taking huge size at the very top, that can work, but today we had dispersed attention. Today just was not as clean as other days this week. And the market didn't care that I was a little not emotionally centered today. But this is kind of the reality with trading, is that where you come in each day, your emotional center, it's like the market doesn't care. You got to trade the market you're in. Just because you have a profit target, just because you're upset that you didn't make as much yesterday as you coulda, woulda, shoulda, the market doesn't care. And so today I was trading much more of my kind of own emotions than I was the market that was right in front of me. And so, when we look at the P&L in total, you can see the 3 stocks I'm red on, and that's like $30,000 in losses. And then I've got the stocks I'm green on, which is like $50,000 in profit. But at the end of the day, it totals out to what for me is a smaller green day, the smallest green day of the week. Now, I can't complain too much, but to me, underperforming is not acceptable. That's the thing with trading, because it's a performance-based sport and you've got to hold yourself to a high standard. And I do. And so when I underperform, I get really frustrated. When I miss days, it's like missing practice. I get frustrated. And I know that other things come in, you've got to take care of yourself and other things come up, but it's very frustrating for me when I have these, when I miss. And so, as I sit right now, we are coming into the last 4 days for the month of July. And, I'm in a great spot on the month. I don't know that I don't think right now I'll be able to beat last month's total, which was 1.3 million, but we do have 4 days left, so I wouldn't count it out completely. It's not impossible. We could have a really good day, at some point next week. The market overall has been strong. Actually Wednesday was a little bit higher than I recalled. So 90,000 is really solid, so at this point, I think the weekend will be helpful for me to kind of reset emotionally and just sort of like, put today behind me. Because what I was concerned about happening was that I was on sort of the verge of today turning into what could have been a big red day. It only would take, one sort of miscalculation with too much size on one of these that it could have gone really badly. And it wouldn't have been the market's fault. It would have been my own fault, right? Because that's, at the end of the day, it's on us. So, easy come, easy go. That's part of trading. It is risky, but it's just so interesting how, your routine getting thrown off, the emotions, just how much that can kind of like, filter into the way you trade. And it's easy to be overconfident and to be like, I'm good. Like, I'm fine. Was I, did I have anesthesia yesterday and all this medicine? Yeah. Did that affect me today? Yeah, probably. I didn't sleep. I don't see why it wouldn't have, I guess. But in the moment, this morning, I was like, I'm good. So, as part of that checklist, did you eat well? Did you sleep well? Are you centered? Do you have a couple stocks that you like? Really ask yourself. It's this combination of inward, like on the internal, is there anything that's holding me back? And then external, how's the market? So how am I doing and how is the market doing? Now, when you're both good, that's when great things happen. And when one is off, you got to be able to recognize that. You might feel great, but the market's terrible. And you got to recognize that. The market might be great and you're not on. You got to recognize that too, because then you could be the person who's red, even though the market's up. And, so and honestly, all of this pales in comparison to calling Caitlyn Jenner the most beautiful woman in the world. And I don't mean that in a mean way, but it's going to take me a while to recover from this. So that's where I finish the week, and I'll be back at it Monday morning, streaming, of course, for members at Warrior Trading. However, I have an upload coming on Saturday. So make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel, hit that hit the alert bell. That way you'll get the notification when tomorrow's episode goes live. All right, so I'll see you guys for that episode tomorrow. I'll be in the comments and then live streaming on Monday morning. Reminder as always, trading is risky. My results aren't typical. So please manage your risk, take it slow, and I'll see you guys next week.